Oh my God. I had never heard of them. Oh, for crying out loud.
It seems extreme, but this is the reason why.
This thing is growing out of its head.
Out of science fiction, the fruiting body of the cordyceps erupts from the ant's head.
Well, that's just weird as shit. It's growing horn.
It's dead.
It can take 3 weeks to grow, and when finished, the deadly spores will burst from its tip. Then any ant in the
Look at that.
vicinity will be in serious
Richard
risk of
Attenborough.
death. The fungus is so virulent it can wipe out whole colonies of ants. And it's not just ants that fall victim to this killer. There are literally thousands of different types of cordyceps fungi, and remarkably, each specializes on just one species.
Holy cow. Did you find this on YouTube?
But it's planet Earth. Gorgeous, right?
Oh, they're beautiful little funguses. And they literally mummify the bug.
Right.
But these attacks do have a positive effect on the jungle's diversity, since parasites like these stop any one group of animal getting the upper hand. The more numerous a species becomes, the more likely it will be attacked by its nemesis, the cordyceps fungus.
And voila.
Oh, voila! Holy cow. Huh. Oh, man, we got some fun stuff this morning then.
Um,
I'll be dadgum.
is there a splitter? Whether
Well, this started because a guy by the name of Ed,
We're coming up real close to going on the air, guys.
sure.
he's hydroponically, including the fish tanks and everything, growing 15-foot tall tomatoes out here in Dayton. They go up to the top of his greenhouse and topple over with fish fertilizer and the water from the fish tank. It's a complete enclosed hydroponic system.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are pretty cool. The tilapia down at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got for fish, but he got these black aphids, and of course, because of the wonderful atmosphere he has in there, they're just rampant. But they only started 2 months ago, so he's had this fabulous tomato crop since last February. were planted in February. They're now 15 feet tall. I'd love to go see them.
Just
No,
hydroponic.
just played hydroponics.
I've seen commercial hydroponic grows with tomatoes where they just start bringing their vine down.
Mm-hmm.
They just start wrapping it down like that, so you have this really long vine, but it's squished down. He decided to just throw it up,
Yeah,
big it.
and he has 3 teaspoons per gallon of liquid fertilizers always used. So like fish fertilizer or something, plus the fish in the tank.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the fertilizer other than he's got a bumper crop going that everybody's appreciating.
Yeah.
Alright.
So anyway,
You can't connect to the transmitter, so,
Okay. So,
what's going on?
it won't speak to the mothership, huh?
We're dead in the water here. Come on. Wake up. Almost think there's something going on with their internet connection, because I was having trouble initiating the stream, which I never have trouble with. Things are acting really stupid today.
it's on.
Can't connect to it. It's on the air.
The theme song.
Yeah. That's on there. This is what's going off
Yeah.
the transmitter. But this is, we
Yeah,
need
the
to
boxes,
go off.
the boxes of the transmitter can't connect to the transmitter. We have just started using a radio like that new antenna up on the roof. Question I've got is, what does it think about fog? It's not happy about something at all. I'll just price this stuff for the last minute.
Testing, testing, testing. I'm good.
connection to the server or the server talking to the woke it up. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead and take a seat. You ready to go?
Yep.
Yep, let's rock and roll.
And welcome. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM. This is your weekly garden show. I'm Kyle Hunter. That's Ray Van Biller. I'm sitting right across from me. And we are going to be talking about, what are we going to be talking about today,
we got
Ray?
we got some serious spooky stuff this morning. It's a Halloween weekend and All Saints Eve, and we're going to talk about zombie ants. And
They really exist.
they
zombie
really,
ants.
yeah, absolutely. And various funguses that can be beneficial for your garden, not just the ones that rot your roots and stuff like that. These are cool funguses. Although sadly, the last paragraph says it's not available in the United States.
Yeah, as are some other things.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
will get into that. I'm looking out the window right now, and it's just a gray morning here in Yamhill County.
Yeah,
And
it's the same color all over.
it's the misting fog. It's the fog that is just all droplets of water getting on everything.
Yeah, it's not raining. It's not going to rain for a while today. Maybe not even till like tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got partly cloudy, high of 59, and tomorrow we've got mostly cloudy with a high of 56. So that's the weekend. But then come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, rain, chance of rain.
It's November.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's time. If you have a tendency to be depressed during the rain, I suggest you go get yourself some vitamin D.
Yeah, you need the vitamin D.
Get a big jug.
Because it's coming.
Yeah, get you a 3-month supply.
What I'm noticing here, though, they're predicting Wednesday and Thursday, which is a chance of rain,
Yeah.
in the mid-60s, 65, 65. And whereas this weekend we're looking at the 59, 56, and then 55, 54. So we're looking those temperatures starting to dwindle
they're gonna-
downwardly.
Yeah, they're going to start to drip like the rain off the roof.
Yeah, we're gonna look at those the
Ah.
42-degree rains. That's a
They're
whole-
coming.
Yep,
Yeah,
and that's
they're
when
c-
you get the big droplets and the.
Oh,
Really
I
nice.
got hammered the other day. I got caught under one of the wrong clouds.
Because it's sunny everywhere else.
Oh yeah,
Or-
you
or
can
sun-
see the sun out over Sherwood, and the cloud I was under was making spots about probably half an inch in diameter on my coat.
Yeah,
and it was
so-
just rain. It wasn't hail.
Some of those, and that's the thing. I've got my daughter, and she's expecting hail whenever she hears that sound. It's like, no, it's just a hard rain. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's hail, Daddy. No, you would see hail on
No,
the ground.
this doesn't bounce.
Right. it does. It does. It just bounces into 100 fragmented
It
droplets.
goes splat.
Yeah. So that's the weather. How's your garden going with the weather? You last weekend I left you, and you had some things that you were going to get done.
I did. I got my list done. I took and I whacked off everything. All the perennials, whacked them down to about 6 inches tall. Whacked off probably half the rose bush, and took off the bird netting that I'd been using all summer long to keep the deer off. So the deer trimmed up the last 6 inches of it. Ate all the rose hips off the top 6 inches of
Oh,
the
good.
plant.
They need those.
Yeah,
Those
well,
vitamins.
they do too. But
Right.
no, I got everything whacked down and got all the dahlias clipped off. I'm gonna leave the dahlia tubers in the ground because I covered them up with about 6 inches of compost. I went over to Northwest Greenlands and got me a pickup load, a
Yeah.
serious pickup load.
And when I stopped over last weekend, you had already laid out this black gold.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, even driving around the landscaping for the businesses and the commercial sites, they're all laying it down too. And it's just an amazing thing to see. It just changes the landscape completely. It looks as though the person takes care of their stuff, but more importantly, there are no weeds, there are no fallen
No.
leaves. It's just
Nothing.
clean.
I took and after I got everything cut off and I raked all the leaves on, that were on the driveway and the sidewalk and stuff. I raked all them onto the top of the soil, and then I put down a full can of preen
Oh my.
and anti-emergent,
And you read the label.
and I read the label, and it said I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
It won't affect the tubers or anything that's in the ground already, because by the time it dissolves and runs off, it'll be spring and they'll just pop right up through it. So what I'm hoping is that, like in April, stuff will start to pop through this mat of
This preen level.
this preen level and the 6 inches of compost that are on top. I mean, I'm going to have some
But it won't be
plants.
6 inches by that time, right? I mean, it'll be like what?
Oh, it'll
2
probably be down to
inches?
about 3 inches.
Yeah.
It breaks down by about 50%, which is fine. It's still the best compost that I can buy,
Right.
and it does help prevent, because it's black. It absorbs any heat that we get.
That's a
So
good point.
it kind of helps keep things a little bit warmer than they would be. And I put it on thick enough so it will last through the possible November, December, January snows. It won't really start to break down quickly until late February, early part of March, and then it'll drop down about 2.5 to 3 inches. And what it does is the bottom part actually breaks down because the little bugs come up in it because it's
That's
warm.
right.
And so worms and the bugs and the biodegrading life that runs around in my garden underneath all of this will come up and eat the bottom part of it. And so that's what causes it to drop down. It still looks the same on the top,
But it's getting incorporated into the soil.
but it's getting
Yeah.
getting broke down, and so it'll go into the top 2-3 inches. When I was digging up stuff,
All right, and then so with that being said,
yep.
The thing that I've been noticing about the when the people are laying down the compost is you can either lay it down around just the plant, or in
Mhm.
your case, in the smaller landscaping areas in around the house, the whole area gets just blasted with black. So instead of these little areas around the plant where you've got the black, you just lay it down everywhere. You got a reason for that?
Well, yes. What I'm going to do, and we're currently still broadcasting online, but not over the air. But we'll still keep us going what we're doing. What I'm doing is the areas where I had annuals planted last year, zinnias and cosmos and stuff like that the deer didn't eat.
Yes.
Those are going to be open spaces. They will also be totally covered with the compost so that next spring I can go and purchase plants to grow in those areas, and they will be super happy.
Yes, because you don't necessarily know where everything's going to go.
No, I need to.
immediately.
Well, I need to wait and see what comes up. I'm
right.
practicing my Darwinian garden.
Right.
If
you
it,
wanna
wa-
see what
if it
comes
was
up.
meant to be in my garden, a sucker will grow. Let's look at it that
it'll
way.
come up by April. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there's going to be a hole in the place.
Yeah, and if where there are holes, then I will go and get potted zinnias or begonias or something to fill in just those holes.
Yeah.
It's a different approach. I've used the raw seed for years and just thrown it out there and see what comes up. Sometimes you get a whole bunch of plants. Sometimes you get a few. The sunflowers that I got that survived were Hugio giganticus, so I think I may be a little more careful where I put those next year.
And when we talk about the Darwinian approach to gardening, it's where the plant dies, it'll seed itself around there.
Yeah.
A bird might have carried a seed a little further away, and something pops up over there. And it's just letting things naturally grow back where they might have grown if you didn't plant them there.
Well, surprisingly enough, a lot of our annuals, so we think of annuals, will self-seed if you can protect the seed well enough from the freezing climate
The
during
cold,
the
the frost.
the
yeah.
cold and the frost. If you can protect it well enough, you can get zinnias back, and you can get cosmos back, and calendula will come back. If you can protect the seed. So that's why I'm using such an enormous amount of compost.
You got a blanket on them.
I put a big splat of insulation on them, see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what actually comes up.
Yeah, my Darwinian approach this year is asters. I have these beautiful purple asters that just took over a whole entire
Oh,
5x5 space.
Yeah.
And the butterflies and the moths that it attracts are great for the garden, but I've got to cut that thing back now. All it is it's just basically a 5x5 square of dead seeds, just horrible brown looking things. So I've got to deal with that today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull everything out, gently brush it upside down, and then I'm going to go ahead and just, let's give that a listen there, Ray. We ask that you put all cell phones on silence during the radio show, Ray.
Oh, that's my
Oh, I don't care.
today's duck football, and I'm hooking up with a bunch of people to go.
Oh, great.
Let me,
Fabulous.
Let me turn this
Yeah,
off.
why don't you put that on that? So asters, I've got the same thing with my dahlias that are in the same area, but just turn them upside down, brush them, and then toss everything else in the compost.
Well, I told you about getting the wave petunias back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was an experiment last year where I didn't really think about it. I just let them go ahead and die. As far as I was concerned, they were dead.
Mm-hmm.
When I pulled them up, apparently I knocked seed off back into the pot.
Mm.
And then that was the first time I tried this blanket approach to compost. I put about 4 inches on top of all of my pots, pulled stuff up and just filled them all the way up, because they shrink down during the summertime with watering and just the soil breakdown. And so I covered them up with this 4-inch layer of compost. And I'll be dadgum if I didn't get wave petunias back.
Beautiful ones.
Oh,
Bright
man,
green leaves.
Oh, them suckers were 3.5, 4 feet across right up until the time the deer squared them up.
Dang those deer.
Dang deer.
Yeah. So, you know what? All that talk about the compost is really, it does get me excited. It makes me realize that I've still got to pull my asters. I did go out, and we're going to be talking about tomatoes, so we'll lead into that in a bit. But my tomatoes, that's what I did in the garden yesterday. I've got way too many tomato plants because I'd let them self-seed, and I did the Darwinian approach. They're everywhere in the garden, and so I've got to go around and pulling them up, and they're still flowering. I talked about them last week, and the flowers still haven't produced anything, but they're still flowers.
Yeah, the bees are hunkered down in the tree up on the hill.
Yeah, no yellow jacket sightings in quite some time. It's amazing.
It's like, no.
But I've got all this rotting fruit mass on these bushes of tomatoes, so I've got a pile of them now, and the pile is like 3 feet high. It's incredible how much grew this summer.
No, it's been a good summer, and we'll talk about this guy that called into the Master Gardener desk later. His name was Ed, and we actually do have an answer for him, but it's not quite as applicable as we'd like it to be.
Sure. So why don't we take a break, and then we'll get back into this, because it was Halloween last night, and this is it's creepy. It's zombies and stuff for insects. So we'll talk about that when we get back. For right now, you're listening to The Root of It on KLYC 1260 AM, KLYC.US. And we are back. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM, KLYC.us. And there's an app for that on iPhone and Android.
Yeah.
So, how was your Halloween last night? It was beautiful.
Oh, actually, we had quite a number of trick-or-treaters. Everybody appeared to be dressed up really nicely. We didn't have a lot of the 15 to 18-year-olds trick-or-treating. And we got through the holiday season with only 2 splattered pumpkins out in the street, so that's not bad.
Oh, did that happen to you?
Yeah, every year there's somebody drives by and throws a pumpkin in the street, or they steal a pumpkin from somebody's house. You didn't do that as a kid?
You know, I had
You were a good
seen.
kid.
I had no. I 6th grade. Okay, 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade.
Yeah.
But yes, why is that?
Oh, it's a compulsion, and it makes such a wonderful sound when the pumpkin hits the street. And I was a little bit of a delinquent, like you say, until about the 7th grade. I was a pumpkin chucker, and at the church potluck, one time, me and my buddy Max stole the watermelon out of the creek where it was
Cooling off.
cooling off, and we snuck out in the bushes at the church potluck and ate the whole freaking watermelon. That kind of stuff. I was.
Yeah,
I
but
was
the
tough
pumpkin's
to
about
raise.
to rot,
Yeah.
and I think it could be said if it's not a well-designed pumpkin, maybe it's gonna rot anyway. So in the street, whatever. But I don't find any joy in it anymore.
No, thank goodness. At the ripe old age of 40, you've matured. So
Right.
there is hope for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I finally got my act together when I was like 63. So
Well, we went downtown. Not downtown. We went down to Portland, and Division Foster area, and that's where we decided to. We've got friends down there to take the kids to go trick or treating, and there was nobody down there. There was
Really?
nobody trick or treating at my friend's house. They had 3 visitors all night, and this is a house area. It's
We had a
bunch
couple
of-
dozen.
Yeah, and it was really strange because even being out, we saw maybe 5 groups of trick-or-treaters. And we were
I'll
going
be
blocks and
darned.
blocks around. So we scored a lot because people were just surprised and tickled to see anybody show.
Oh.
You know what? Nobody's showing up here. Just take as much as you want. Great. Because that candy does usually end up in my belly.
Yeah, well, I'll have to contract with Mabel then.
Right.
We did have a little bit left over, but not anything like we've had in past years.
Yeah, it was really strange to just not see anybody out there, and because it was a beautiful evening. It was just a little bit of chilly, no wind, no rain, no nothing. It
Well,
was
a
great.
lot of people here went downtown. Downtown was busy.
Yeah.
A lot of trick-or-treaters, but
Yeah, I had a hard time getting through Newburgh.
yeah, you get better treats out in the suburbs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Businesses, yeah, they have
But
those.
99 through Newburgh, that was they've got the street not closed off, but the storefronts
yeah.
where you get the kids. All the storefronts are open for that. Same thing down here in McMinnville. But yeah, going through that, it was really slow, but you get to see all of the costumes.
I saw some great costumes last night.
Yeah,
There was.
I didn't see any except for my kids because nobody was out trick or treating.
Oh, for crying out loud! What Mabel go out as?
She was a pirate, a very elaborate pirate. It was a nice costume,
Oh, cool.
and she sold it. And the boy was Buzz Lightyear, and he took that part and just ran with it. He was just screaming, and then you throw a couple of M&Ms in him, and he's just running all over the place.
Oh, excellent.
Mabel
excellent.
had a tummy ache because she ate a little too much candy.
Yeah, and I will later.
Yeah, but not so many scary costumes out there. We did go to this one that that you've always got that front yard that's all ghouled out and scary, strobe lights flickering, and there was a person holding the candy and scary. That almost got Ellis really scared and frightened, and so we had to leave there quickly. But scary is a bit subjective because we had somebody call in to the extension service, and they found something on their aphids that caused us to think.
Yes. A gentleman brought in a sample of his tomato leaves, and they were absolutely infested with black aphids. And this person has this wonderful system, a total hydroponic system, and it's extremely successful as far as growth because he has the fish tank, and the fish tank,
They were saying 15 feet tall vines of tomatoes.
yeah, gigantic, clear up to the roof of the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fairly closed atmosphere, but, leaving the door open for propagation, the aphids came in.
Yeah.
And it's a totally organic system that he's got going on. I mean, it's as pure as the driven
So you're
snow.
saying no pesticides?
No pesticides whatsoever.
Mm.
So he was wondering what he could do about these aphids. And lo and behold, there is ways to take care of that. Now, his current gigantic tomatoes, they're probably toast. He may have to just go ahead and clear cut
Because
them.
what you were saying
Yeah.
is they're just completely covered in this
Yeah,
black
they're-
stuff. And when you've got 10 feet of black stuff, it's hard
it's-
to survive that.
No. He's going to have, and he has started over.
He came to terms.
He's come to terms with part of it's going to just have to go away. He can take pictures and put them in the family album and say,
Right.
in
Well, you were saying February.
yeah,
that
he
he
started
planted-
them in February,
Right.
in this greenhouse. So they've grown all year long, and with just the water from the fish tank and a little bit of liquid fertilizer, these suckers are giganticus,
Right,
like
these are-
small trees.
But they're not trees. They're not designed
No,
to go. So their defenses break down
right.
as they get older, as do most living things.
Yeah, they
So they're not able to say, hey, no aphid,
No,
no
they get-
aphid.
yeah.
Too many.
yeah, they get to the end of the season, they just
Yeah.
burn out.
Right. Yeah. So he had a good run.
Yeah, beautiful run. I'd love to go out and see him before he cuts them, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to get away with that. But he was looking for organic ways to prevent this from happening on his new tomatoes, which he's already started for the winter.
Because he doesn't want the pesticides.
No.
No chemicals.
No. And so on the small plants, he can go ahead and use horticultural oils and insecticidal sprays.
Mhm.
Organic insect.
The soaps.
The soaps,
The
and
soaps.
yeah, that's and he can mist them.
Mhm.
He can wipe the undersides of the leaves and get rid of any aphids that are transferring from the plants that are going out the door to the mulch
and
pile
their eggs.
and their eggs.
Right.
That's the important part. Is when you're using organic products, you have to make sure that you really do it thoroughly, because you want to get the eggs out of there.
It's not just the top of the leaf; it's underneath.
No, you
Right.
got it. You
It's
got
the
it. All
crook
the
of the
little
stems. It's
Yep.
yeah.
the whole thing needs to be sanitized.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it. And when your plants are like a foot to 2 foot tall, it's pretty easy
That
to
sounds
do.
easy.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to do. When they're 15 feet tall, and I ain't chasing them with a Windex bottle up
Gotta
a
get the
step
axe.
ladder. No. It's time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
They're destined for the mulch
Mhm.
pile.
Mhm.
Put them outside. Let the freezing snow temps kill the aphids.
Yep.
But in the greenhouse, if you do sanitize and do very carefully cleanse your plants, you can knock it down.
Right.
But what I was doing when I was in the process of researching this thing, over in Europe, in their greenhouses, they use a fungal inoculant, which is called Verticillium lecanii. And I don't know what you'd call the common name. It took me 10 minutes to learn how to pronounce that sucker. But I got all the vowels.
Yeah, verticillium usually means the fungus, right?
Right,
That's
right.
a whole bunch of other verticillium.
And there's lots of different kinds of fungus
Mhm.
under the verticillium, but this Verticillium lecanii is a carnivorous fungus, and they mist it on their plants, and what it does is when bugs get it in them, it eats the bug
From the inside out.
from the inside out. When the bug ingests it off the plant, then the fungus goes into the plant, into the bug, and kills the bug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally organic. It's absolutely cool to how this whole system works. But as with really cool systems, it's only used in England and France and Germany and Belgium and Italy and
Well, you don't want those.
Spain.
You don't want the. I mean, the point that you're trying to make is that this is not registered for North American
No.
use. That means not Canada. That
Not
means not
Canada.
Mexico. Not America.
Not America. It's used in South America.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not authorized for North America. God only knows why.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's a fungus, and maybe there's a fear that all of the insects will be infested with this, because it is an interesting fungus, and I thank you for bringing this topic to my attention, because to think about, this there's the mold basically just inside of this thing. There are actually thousands of kinds of mold like this, and they're specific to an insect.
Well, this one is very specific to what it likes to eat.
Right.
It likes to eat aphids, white flies.
Because they've got the juicy, gooey inside.
Right. The soft, juicy bodies
Mm-hmm.
that it propagates really well in. And it doesn't seem to bother beetles and stuff like that.
Right.
Because they're hard bodies and they're busy eating other bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what would happen if it ate a dead aphid. I didn't get that far in my research, but I'll know better, because this just fascinates the daylights out of me.
Yeah, these were first described in 1860, and they're a common pathogen on these scale insects. So it's not as though they're so rare, and this isn't something that's been seen.
This isn't some new wing dinghy that somebody dreamed up
And
in a bucket.
Even just Googling it, it was you get to see all of these pictures of these rotting insects from the inside out. Now, one of the things is this this spore is actually damaged by ultraviolet light.
Yeah.
So it needs to be, maybe on the underside of a leaf, or
Yeah.
it prefers.
Which is where the bugs live.
Right, exactly.
And the eggs are laid, and it does take care of that little issue, but it also works on chrysanthemums, which they use to produce pyrethrins, which are another organic spray.
Mm-hmm. That's a chrysanthemum juice.
Yeah.
I believe. Yes.
Yeah, and works really, really well. But one application lasts for up to 3 months,
That's a growing season.
which is the growing season, so that by the time the plant is ready to start producing fruit, the fungus is dead.
And the byproduct, as we've said, the byproduct is just a rotting insect. So it becomes problematic when you have let's say, a whole bunch of aphids, and then you will be left with carcasses of rotting things still. So it's not pleasant to look at. The garden hose always washes off aphids anyway, so I'm assuming it'll also wash off a dead aphid too. So that's the only downside to it, right?
Well, actually, yeah, and over there they use it in greenhouses for protecting cucumbers, tomatoes, as well as cut flowers. Oops, do we have a call?
We have a call.
I'll let you work on that one while we see what we got going here. But anyway, it's not usable in the United States yet. So anyway, and then there's the other one that you discovered that on the theme of the zombie ants.
Because the fungus gets ingested or gets brought into
Right.
the insect's body, and as we've mentioned, there are different types of fungus that are particular to the species. So there are ants down in South America that have a particular fungus associated with them, and it does something even more peculiar, because what it'll do is it'll go into their body and they'll become kind of zombified, because it tells them, go up, because I need to go into the sun. So the ant is forced to go upwards, goes to a nice, perfectly humid area, and then the fungus basically says, okay, clench your mandibles, your jaws, into this stem right here, and die.
Yeah, it completely makes the ants crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, because it does, and scientists have actually, tried to take the ants away from this spot, put them in a drier spot, but they end up going back
They
to a
crawl
human,
back.
and not necessarily to that spot, but to another ideal spot, and clench mandibles, and it's incredible because what then happens is, as they're clenched onto this and their bodies are getting rotted from the inside, a spore sprout pops out of their head. And it's this thin little thing that over a week develops into just a stem mushroom.
Yeah.
And this affects colonies. It wipes out colonies. And what they'll actually do is, if a worker ant notices an ant is behaving like this, they'll take the ant. He'll pick the ant up and take it far away from the colony and drop it off. And that ant is disoriented, can't ever make it back to the colony, but it's not infecting the rest of the colony. And it's a zombie ant because it really does. Could you imagine? Have you ever heard of such a thing where this organism is telling this other organism, you've got to go over here. No, this isn't the good place. Go over here.
Well, actually, if I've had enough Crown Royal, I can get pretty zombified myself. But
That's a good point.
yeah, we don't crawl up to the humidity anymore.
Right.
We stay off of chain link fences at city swimming pools and things like that.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
but yeah, that was amazing, and that's another thing that it's being researched to see if it has other applications for general pesticide usage, because the funguses are so insect specific.
Mm-hmm.
It only attacks a particular species of ant.
Right.
Now,
So this fungus isn't going to attack a grasshopper. It's not going
No.
to attack a beetle, but there are funguses that attack the beetle. And there was that Planet Earth that we watched on the YouTube before the show.
oh, that was just cooler than grit.
And they just had these different insects, with different shapes of mushrooms coming out of their carcasses.
Well, you can see yes, it's magnified a bajillion times, but you can see the insect actually start to shrink as the fungus eats it up, and then as it starts to shrink, of course, it dies, and then next thing, up out of its head, out of its brain, comes this fungus.
Yeah.
And it grows up and it flowers and it makes its little spore pod at the end of it, and it waits for the next ant to come by.
Yes, exactly.
Now, is that cool or what? You talk about a Halloween story. Watching that sucker on YouTube just is spooky.
I know. And what I was reading an article, the amount of pressure that it takes for the fungus to burst through the ant's skull is equivalent to a 737 jet. So, because it, even on a micro scale, it still takes pressure to break through, ant exoskeleton.
Yeah, I mean, when you step on an ant, or step on a bug and you hear that little pop, it's because its exoskeleton is popped. So it's a very, very hard material that the ant's head is made out of. It's like our skulls.
Yeah.
And this fungus gets inside there, and then it goes boing. Pop. Oh, man.
But so that was a nice little Halloween tie-in there with your rotting insects. So that did Ed, the person who came in, did he say that he was going to?
Yeah, he's
attempt it?
we called him, and he understands that the situation is it's end of season situation, and he needs to just clean that out and kind of fumigate his greenhouse a little bit with what's legally available in Yamhill County for organic gardeners.
So
And eventually he'll get her under control, and next year's crop will be better because he'll be more aware of what can happen,
right.
and be ahead of it. And I still want to go out and see 15-foot tall tomatoes. So
Yeah, and if you have any questions like that, because that is a really fascinating question, you can go ahead and email Ray at totherootofit.com. I'm Kyle at totherootofit.com. You can also stop in at the Oregon State University Extension office in Yamhill County, which is located in Minville at 2050 Lafayette Avenue. We're going to take a break right now, but when we get back, we'll talk about the November calendar for garden and things to do. So for right now, you're listening to The Root
we got
of
a
It.
heck of a list.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC, 1260 AM. And we are back. You're listening to The Root right here on KLYC, your weekly Yamhill County gardening show. We are going to talk about the November garden calendar, which is actually available online on the OSU website, which is extension.oregonstate.edu/Yamhill. Click on the calendar, and there you are. November, usually a prep month, right?
Yeah, it's a wrap it up month for some people that aren't prepared to actually garden all winter. And it's kind of cool because if you are a serious gardener and you've been working at it all year long, all summer long, it's okay to just let it go to bed. That's what I've done.
As long as you take care of like if I were to let everything go to bed right now, ooh, no.
Well,
I would wake up in March and everything everywhere. I would have raspberries and grapes. And
well, that's
everything
true.
everywhere.
But for most people, and I've seen a lot of these as I'm walking around with the dog. There's a lot of people that have just shut her down, mulched her up, covered it up, put little screens over what they want to protect from slugs and things like that. Now's a good time to go ahead and start cleaning up underneath your plants, raking up leaves, things that the slugs and are going to hide under.
Yeah, I did notice a slug yesterday.
Really?
Just a little baby one. Just a little
Oh, those are
tiny
the
one.
little devils that make millions of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hate them little brown guys.
Yeah, you know what? And I didn't squash it. I just flicked it.
Oh, see, and that's not going to stop it from going and finding a girlfriend.
Now, don't you find a girlfriend. Flick.
Yeah, he'll be bruised for a couple of hours, but he'll go have fun.
Yeah, and you're right. The leaves are the big one.
Yeah.
Get all the leaves out of the garden. Even if you got to compost them, don't just leave them there thinking that they're going to break down.
Well, not if you want to stop the slug problem. But
Right.
what you can do is, if you got a lot of leaves, is run over them with your lawnmower. And then bag them up, and then shake the chewed up leaves back out on stuff because they'll biodegrade really quickly.
They're already broken down. They don't have their cellular structure. That keeps them
they'll
strong.
break down in like 6-8 weeks.
Yep.
And then it'll be really cold, and the slug eggs will get killed.
Ooh.
Which is good.
You want them dead.
I want them dead. I know. It's my one ripple with the great force of life is I hate slugs.
Yeah. Yeah, you.
They're
both.
they're not an
Sure.
endangered species except by me.
Sure. Okay, so we've only got one thing on the list for houseplants and indoor gardening, which is reduce the fertilizer applications to the houseplants.
Cut her back. Go ahead and slow down on the watering.
Because you're not getting as much light.
Exactly. There's you can't water your houseplants more to make them be happy. You'll just drown them.
Yeah.
It's okay to let them dry out until the surface of the pot is actually kind of dusty, kind of fluffy. That's not going to hurt the plant.
Right.
And then give it.
It's just when it's as dry as a dry sponge. That's the bad. You've waited way too long for that.
Yeah, you might have waited a little bit too long.
But yeah, since they're not working as hard, you don't.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get the fungus gnats and that's when you know you've overwatered them.
Well, now's a good time to go ahead and use your insecticidal soap and just wash the plants. Get rid of bugs. Get rid of the spider mites. Get rid of the little red guys.
The dust.
Yeah.
The dust that accumulates on those rubber plant leaves.
Yeah. Just go ahead and clean them up. You don't have to do it often. You can do it this time of the year, and they'll be good for several months. And get rid of the eggs and things that have come in through the open door, through the screen door.
Yeah, they're in there. That's what I've come to the realization.
Trust me, they're there.
Yeah, just leave it a moment. Something will pop up that you didn't know. How could that have even?
Yeah,
come
where'd
in
that
there?
come from?
Right.
It came in the front door last month.
Right. It came in with the broccoli.
Yeah, it came in on the dog.
It's true. I gotta get rid of my dog. You need to cover your rhubarb and asparagus beds. We talked about that earlier. Because you were doing that back in October, and you can do that with composted manure and straw.
Yep.
Don't use straight manure. You don't ever really want to use straight
No.
manure for anything because that's a burn.
That
waiting to happen.
can heat them up too quick and just
exactly.
really toast them. but good mulched compost enough to protect the root crown is what
Mhm.
you want to really do.
Because like we were talking about, you want that nice blanket over these things for when we do get the frost. If
Uh-huh.
we get a little bit of snow, they need that blanket, and they'll be better suited to come up in the spring.
And if you're lazy like me and you don't want to really go out and dig up the various bulbs and
Yeah.
things, give them a good insulation.
Yeah.
They'll come back several years for
Put a
you.
heated blanket over them. Put that on.
Next best thing.
Yeah.
Go to Northwest Greenlands and get yourself a pickup load.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the cheapest fix for the garden there is.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of yards is less than $40.
You know what I did do? Okay, so I was talking about doing the tomato plants and removing them all, but I've got a few green ones still on the vine, still clustered together. I went ahead and I put them in a brown bag, and I don't know where to put them though. I don't want to put them in a cupboard. I don't, because I'm afraid that they'll rot and ruin my.
Put them on the back porch where it's where you don't have an active heat source,
All right.
but it's warm enough from the radiant heat from the house.
Okay.
And then check them about once a week, and the ones that start to turn,
Mm-hmm.
then you can take those out and go put them on the counter in the house,
All right.
and they'll ripen up pretty good for you.
Okay.
If you're digging up your potatoes, which you should have already done.
Well, you need to check on the ones that you've got in the
Yeah.
store just for what you were talking about. You want to see if there are any rotten. You go ahead and you take them out and you.
Or cook them first.
Yeah.
Like I made a huge pot of potato soup last night. Oh,
That sounds good.
Yeah, it
right?
was potatoes, leeks, onions, and bacon. Yeah.
Yeah, the wife made me a nice baked potato with broccoli and cheese and
Oh,
deliciousness.
well, that works. That works too.
Yeah. I hadn't eaten a baked potato in quite some time. I remember growing up in baked potatoes, that's the thing, because well, it's the stuff that you get to put on the baked potato. It's all of the sour cream, all of the cheese, all of the butter,
Yeah.
all of that. And then there's a potato in there.
Well, and another thing that you can store in your garage is like if you want to clean up your garden, go out and pick your winter squash and rinse them off good. Wash them off with soap and water, and then set them in a dry place in the garage where they're not going to get heated much up over 50, and they'll last months and months. But you'll wash them off to get rid of the ground bacteria, because if they do rot, they'll rot from the outside in.
Oh, yes. And
They'll
you
get
won't-
the mold and the fungus on them. But if you
That's
take
why when
it,
you cut one open and then you see all those green spots and those black
yeah,
spots
that
on
came
the
from the
inside.
outside.
Yeah.
But if you wash them off with a good soap and water or a very light bleach solution,
Mm-hmm.
you can keep them for quite a while. We picked our gourds. Well, the gourds that we're going to use at the Master Gardener graduation in December.
Mm-hmm.
And I took and washed them all off with soap and water. And they'll last months. They got good hard surfaces. They're nice and clean. They'll be just fine.
It's amazing. Why do they last so long?
Well, because you washed all the crud off of them.
You washed all of the decaying
Right.
instances that could
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
And so now's a good time to, and of course, if you are done gardening, now's a good time to clean off your tools,
Mm-hmm.
wipe them down with a little oil, because rust is a real.
All right, I left some pruners out on the porch, and they weren't in the direct rains. Covered porch.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Can you open them?
No. They went from, honestly, I got them this season. They were perfectly, shiny
Yeah.
and gray, but now they are just black and rust colored, and they just it took. The rains had been around for a month, just a month sitting out there
Yeah.
in the air.
Well, if you can pry them open,
Yeah.
give them a good squirt of WD-40,
Yes.
and then in a day or two, take and wipe them down with an oil solution, and you can reactivate them.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I got these ones, because you can take them apart and you
Yeah.
can file them down, and so they're not the cheap ones. They're designed to have been left out in the field and gone and picked up and reused. So it's just funny to see how everything in this state is in some sort of state of decay.
Yeah.
Just everywhere, at every moment of everything's life, it's just rotting constantly.
Yeah, I've taken my hose. I didn't do the rakes yet, but I'm thinking about doing them too. But the hose and the shovels and the chopping things, those have all been had all the dirt just lightly sanded off of them, sprayed and hung up. I sharpened everything in August, so I don't really need to do that till after I use them a while next spring. But shovels and hose, they've all got a good edge and a light coating of oil on them. They're just off in a corner. They'll be fine.
And we were talking about the temperature slowly, steady going down. That's why you got to make sure that you protect the built-in sprinkler systems, and you just drain the system and insulate the valve mechanisms. That means that styrofoam cup thing needs to come up.
Yep, got them done.
Yeah.
Because, well, we're gonna take off in the middle of January, and I don't want to have to wait until it's a.
You want to be done.
I want to be done. The one thing I have yet to do is to go underneath the house and
Sump pump.
shut off the valve. No, the sump pump's working good.
Great.
Yeah, about every 20 seconds. Yeah, I've gotten used to that. I quit pouting.
Yeah. So, so what do you got to do underneath the house then?
Oh, I've got to shut off the water feed lines and
yes.
drain them.
Mm-hmm.
When we blew the water line last year, and during that freeze in December, and then when it thawed out in January, I heard this funny hissing sound, and it turned out to be the water line to the back porch faucet. And I had a little foam cup on it, but there was about 6 inches of exposed line, and that was all it took for that 6 inches to freeze and pop at the joint.
Did you realize that metal is a great conductor of heat?
I did,
cold?
but
Yeah.
had I, put another 6 inches of insulation, that
Right.
wouldn't
if
have
you
happened.
Would've just had that the bigger styrofoam. If you wouldn't have gone for the jumbo size
Yeah,
styrofoam holder.
instead of just the faucet head cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm going to do her smarter this year. I'm going to go ahead and shut it off and drain it. It's only going to take me a couple of minutes. I've already gone underneath the house and sprayed all the foundation for molds and stuff like that, so that won't grow.
Right.
That was kind of a cool thing to do.
Awesome.
So I'm pretty much ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the pots that I don't want to dig up, I just scoot them back against the house underneath the cover, and they're all composted. They'll be fine, just sitting there. And hopefully, when I come back, the tulips will be up and the iris will be blooming. And
Yeah. Well, you had told me that I should expect all the leaves to be on the ground, and that hasn't happened yet. Right?
not yet. We need one more good freeze,
Yeah.
and then they'll fall down.
Because I want to get into pruning. I like talking about pruning on the show.
Yeah.
But if you have any topics you want to discuss on the show, go ahead and email him. That's ray@totherootofit.com. I'm Kyle at totherootofit.com. And we're going to go ahead and take off right now, 10 o'clock. You're meeting up. There's a game of football.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know the Broncos were playing today.
It's Stanford, and they've been the bugaboo for the last 2 years for my little Oregon Ducks. So I must go and be present.
No, great game. I'll probably I'll turn it on after I get in from pulling out more tomato plants because the weather, whatever.
Yeah,
got to deal with it. Got to get the garden done. So. You've been listening to The Root of It. This is on KLYC 1260 AM, also KLYC.us. We've been streaming this on the Facebook, which is KLYC Radio. So, many ways, the show will go ahead and be uploaded immediately to YouTube. So search
To
The Root of It.
Come visit us.
KLYC.
In the meantime, keep your tools sharp.
You're listening to The Root of It Radio on KLYC 1260 AM.